My name is Becky Morrison. I am CEO and founder of The Light, and this is my hot take. When I started out working in production, it was a different time, and a lot of the time, the ADs would yell at you. I cried in the bathroom as a coordinator multiple times. I really was taught that this is the way it's done, this is the culture of production, and either you get with it or you can get out, somebody else is waiting to take your position. And in order to succeed, I really took on a lot of those same characteristics. So I became very aggressive, I would say. I became very hyper masculine, and I saw that the more that I took those things on, the more that I was rewarded in my career. And I got to a certain point when I was a line producer, and I really realized that I had become somebody that I didn't want to be. And so when that happened, I started to question, well, why? Who created all of this? Who created the language, the culture, the process of production? What I realized, because I've done a lot of research into the history of production and into the dawn of Hollywood, the early studios, and what I found was that a few guys with mustaches and top hats designed production. I mean, really, they were faced with a new industry. No one had any idea how it was done, but the demand for movies was so high that they had to churn them out faster. And over the course of the next 100 years, while the technology of filmmaking has completely evolved, production itself has remained almost entirely frozen in time. I own a production company called The Light, and our mission is really production innovation. So imagining what a new future for production could look like, one that's grounded in equity, inclusion, and sustainability. I think sustainability, often we use it to mean, eco-conscious or green, but sustainability as a concept really means balance, right, or equilibrium. And I think on one side of that equilibrium, you have extraction. And extraction is when we are, taking from, depleting, when we are doing harm. And then on the other side, you have regeneration. And regeneration is when we are giving life to, we're enlivening, we're contributing to that. And so I think that's the spectrum. We have sustainability, extraction, and regeneration. And I think when we're talking about sustainable productions, we mean doing production, so TV shows, movies, commercials, in a way that doesn't do harm. And I think that that is an awesome goal. But I think ultimately our goal, and it's also the goal of Green the Bid, I'm on the advisory board of Green the Bid, the goal is regeneration, which actually means contributing to, enlivening, seeing production in a way that gives more than it takes. The word sustainable can have a more limited or an expanded definition of what that means. I think if we're talking about a sustainable production, meaning eco-conscious, there are a lot of very simple practical things that we can do to have sets that are more environmentally friendly. If we're talking about sustainability from an expanded definition of that word, it's really about creating an environment and a production experience in which people can be healthy and flourish. And I think that we often talk about sustainability, in the sense of the environment, but what does it also mean to have a sustainable lifestyle? And I think that when it comes to sustainability in that regard, one of the biggest things, one of the biggest issues is looking at everything as if it's disposable. I think that we as producers can get very amped up on our power, that we make the impossible possible. And as a result of that, things fall by the wayside. So we feel like we can damage the environment or create waste and throw it away, it doesn't matter. We can also replace people. People don't even matter. We have a key grip or a best grip or a third grip or a fourth grip or a fifth grip. Those are disposable, they're roles, they're not actually people. So I think we need to start looking at human beings and the planet and the interconnectedness of all of that when we talk about sustainable productions. I think when it comes to the unions and the labor side of things, I think that what they're doing and what they have done historically is extremely important in terms of getting these kinds of benefits and rights, both for union crew and non-union crew, because non-union follows the precedent that gets set by the unions. But I would say, for me, it shouldn't all be coming from the unions and the crew to be fighting upwards for their rights. That is a part of the history of labor for sure, but I'm on the production company side. I'm the person that they're fighting against. And so I'm of the belief that producers, production companies, those who are at the top, need to be doing more to change the system and not just be sitting there waiting for unions and workers to be fighting for what they want. We need to be proactive and generative about doing what's right for people. So that's one of the reasons that we pay people quickly. So it's not, I don't need to wait for somebody to like fight for the right to be paid quickly. We'll just do that because that's what's right. Same thing, we take 25% of our profits as a company at the end of the year and we distribute it back to the crew. We wouldn't be where we were without the crew. We wouldn't be profitable if it wasn't for them. So they deserve to share in those profits as well. Prioritize people's experience. It does not cost any more money. And I think a lot of studios may have this kind of ethos at the high level about their values, but it doesn't trickle down to set. There's some sort of like layer in between where the companies may be doing this and prioritizing these values. But then when it comes to their actual productions, people are not being treated well and they're not being given what they need to do their best. And that is not sustainable. And what I really want to see for the next generation is a production experience that welcomes people in. The reason why we're talking about any of this, about treating people well, about prioritizing their experience, is to create a more sustainable industry. For me, all of these kinds of issues that the industry is facing right now, whether that's lack of representation, DE&I, sustainability, everything that happened with Me Too and Time's Up, really underneath it all, it's all justice at its core, really injustice, that's the issue. So I think we tend to look at these in silos. We tend to address these as individual issues. Let's say having a green set or having a more diverse set, or what happened on the set of Rust, or what's happening with Stand With production. We address these things individually as their own issues, when in reality underneath, it's the same thing that's causing all of them. And also, when it comes to sustainability from an environmental standpoint, it's absolutely impacting communities of color far more than it is white communities. And so it is a racial justice issue. Like, environmental justice is racial justice. Women's rights, workers' rights, immigrant rights, it's really all the same thing. Absolutely, we are on shaky ground with the way things are right now when it comes to production. And it's just a matter of time before it really blows up, for lack of a better word, where there's really a reckoning. It's not sustainable in terms of the harm we're doing to the planet, the harm we're doing to communities, and the harm we're doing to people. So we're on borrowed time. And people really need to, studios, agencies, clients, production companies need to realize that and start to envision a way of doing production that is healthy for people and that's ultimately regenerative. There are a lot of issues that our industry is facing right now. I think that's undeniable. And I think really the solution to solving them all is changing the way that we think about production. And that's my hot take.